Thank you for that question, because the win and the ROI, the return on investment, is actually my biggest passion about this topic, because that is what makes a difference. And we need to find it together. And I was also very happy when I heard in the introduction welcoming here, Don Perchuin talk about investment, because that is what it is. It's an investment, meaning that you get a lot back, but not meaning that it always costs a lot. It's not always very costly. And that is also important, because then all wouldn't try to do measures. So to be concrete about the wins, there are wins for society, for employers, for individuals, and for managers. For the employers, if we focus on this win, last week we had a webinar talking about government wins and so on. For employer wins, the society wins actually are very important, because adding as an employer a company to a more sustainable, gender equal, inclusive society in line with the SDGs and Agenda 2030 is very attractive, attracts employees and retains them, as we know. But to be concrete then, I have 7 examples, so you can stop me when I'm ready with those, but I'll take them quick. It becomes easier to attract and retain talent, as is maybe the easiest win to see. Lower recruitment costs to be followed over time. So it strengthens the employer brand. And in this war of talent, as we have, it's important for all, of course. It increases resilience and the sense of belonging, which also affects health and well-being. And you get lower sick leave costs, less burnouts among people who have families. It creates stronger motivation and loyalty among employees, not the least during and after parental leave, meaning that you get higher engagement levels. And engagement is possible to follow when they work, employees, but during parental leave, you don't know where it goes. And hopefully engagement is enough to get employees back after parental leave. You get increased diversity, inclusion, and gender equality, as we know, because this is a focus of UNFPA and all in this room. But to be concrete, how? More women in management groups, more paternity leaves, to get the mix creates more creative, innovative, and productive teams. And companies actually get also a concrete thing to do, concrete measure within the area of inclusion, which is not always very easy and tangible to work with. Companies get higher productivity and market value too, not only increased brand on the employer market, but also on the customers and partners market. Both customers and partners want to see sustainable companies as partners. So it increases a competitive advantage. 2 more, role modeling values in PR and communication to strengthen the brand in different channels on many areas and arenas have a huge impact. And as you mentioned, Volvo Cars, they have done a huge launch of paid parental leave globally. But what really worked for them was when they got 50 managers in many countries to try paternity leave and tell their stories in social media, then the others follow. And that is what I believe is the strongest tool of all. But the last win, which is actually was my first when I started this work 12 years ago, interviewing 100 managers with kids, is the competence development. That parenting and caregiving develops transferable skills, leadership skills, not always seen as part of the wins and return on investment, but a huge resource to competence useful at work too. So lots of wins. Was that enough?
Yes.
So far, yes. But if you do not mind, I will ask one more question. I do not want to use too much time. Practically, could you give us a few examples from the point of view of the employees related to family-friendly policies which have already been implemented? So some cases of practical use of this concept with practical results. From Sweden, of course. From the area which you can describe.
The challenge when telling about Swedish examples is that it's hard to track how they started actually and why and their strategies and so on, because many started already in the 70s, a long time ago, and have it as a part of their culture. But many mistakes were made on the journey too. So if learning from that, today, most Swedish companies offer already the flexible working, paid parental leave, they top up the salary since government here supports paid parental leave to a large extent. They don't need to pay for childcare because we have it in the country. But I was looking at the cases we have when I got this question from you. And I think that what is interesting is to mention the companies who got the awards in Sweden. What was then the unique things that really made them be pioneers in a country where this is like hygiene factor? It's not even easy to be competitive being family friendly in Sweden because so many are. So I'll mention, for example, a company called Boliden, a mining company that already in the 80s had a father on paternity leave, and they have lots of men employed. They actually got this award, for, the Golden Pacifier, as we call the award in Sweden, in 2012, since they had this father on leave in the 80s and more fathers took paternity leave. So they really worked with father and male role modeling and got they walked the talk. They got the policies to live. So both mothers and fathers used everything that was offered. Then we have the company Telia company that we have in many panels, like last week in Ukraine too. They do as all. They have salary top up and flexible hours. You can work from home and so on. Reboarding programs after long leave. And they also plan to do this global paid parental leave like Volvo Cars. But one thing is interesting to highlight from them is that they, during parental leave, they allow other employees to try the position. So they have a competence development in the company. When somebody is on leave, it's an opportunity for somebody else to try a role that they hadn't tried, maybe a leadership position, and so on. So that is interesting, I think. And then we have a third case I want to mention is companies who have done meetings for parents on leave to really talk about the competence development, the asset that they are, the engagement levels raised during this period. And that is Telia, who did it early when I began 12 years ago, and IPAM, as you heard, in Belarus, who are very proud to have helped doing the pilot workshops for parents on leave that they now do in other countries too. They invite online. So together, parents on leave, both during parental leave and onboarding after, is one important key that has made those companies see that they attract more employees, they become loyal and stay longer, they get lower sick leaves and so on. So that was just a couple of examples, but just to end, sorry, 1 minute more. The summarizing key of success of all the companies' cases we have here is that they decide what bigger context they connect the family supportive initiatives to, because all get wins in all the areas as I told you about. But if not deciding the top 1 to 3 priorities the coming years, it's very hard to see who has the ownership of the initiative in the organization. And that is often what makes policies not live. Who owns it? What budget should we use? So in the model we support and the assessment tools and everything in this project, we really recommend to connect to priorities in the company, like being a more inclusive workplace, offering a flexible digital work arrangement, and so on. Now I'll stop. I can talk for ages. I love this topic, but happy to follow I'm looking forward to listening to the Moldovan cases. We have been following you for years, since the first time I was on stage in Belarus, actually. I know you have come very far, so we follow it and support your companies with big interest. Thank you so much.